And that quarantine process, it's not something that Mason City Schools has come up with. This is actually directions from CDC, the state level, down to the local level. And we're required to follow those. That is something that's a legal obligation that we have to do. And the reason we have to do that is because that's the directive from our local health department. And they have been great working with us closely to minimize the impact of the quarantine. But even with that, it's still having a big impact on our system. And we understand that when our students are quarantined at home, they're healthy, they don't have symptoms, and they're missing their friends, they're missing their lessons, they're trying to stay connected to their teacher, but that causes some stress on the system as well. And so we understand that that's not a physical safety issue, but that is an emotional. And so we want to do our best to share with you what we're doing to address that. As our team comes together every day to review the data, what we have noticed very clearly, and you have also seen this in our weekly updates as we've shared our data transparently with our community, is that we have more quarantines happening at our high school. And there is reason for that. We are not surprised by that. That's something actually our health experts told us would most likely be the pattern over time because they see that happening more in students at the high school level. One thing that our team has noticed as we review the data daily is that we have noticed that for every one positive case that has come into our high school, it impacts about 15 students, and that's where it's stressing on the system. Remember, we have to follow a 6-foot, 15-minute protocol. That's not something we've made up, but something we're following and implementing. And when we do that, as students go from class to class, every student they've sat next to within that 6-foot distance gets quarantined, and that causes an emotional impact on the student as well as the teacher in the class. And we recognize that is the problem that we are trying to solve. So what we've also watched over time is that that spread is not happening in our buildings. At Mason City Schools, we are taking a proactive approach to engage key leaders from around the state to help us to possibly redefine what quarantine means inside of public schools. Schools have a very controlled environment, and our data is showing very clearly that our students who are in quarantine are not showing symptoms. So one of the ways that we're trying to address that to minimize the impact on our students and on our school system is we're trying to re-look at that. So I have been fortunate enough to engage in conversations with Governor DeWine, with his office, with public officials from around our area. Also, the Warren County Health Department has been engaged in conversations, Children's Hospital, and we're bringing people together to begin looking at the data and say, could we redefine what quarantine looks like in school? Since the environment is controlled, students are wearing their masks throughout the entire building, and we've created that 3-foot distance, which we've all determined based on research is a safe distance with masks. So that is what we're trying to do proactively and bring people together to make those decisions. If we get down that road and we find that it's a dead end, that people will not be willing at the state level or CDC level to change that so that we can make that change at the 3-foot level instead of in the 6-foot distance quarantine, what we will do is then consider more of a hybrid approach. The hybrid approach, remember, is where 50% of our students come every other day to class. And it allows us to spread out our seats and so that we can move past this quarantining issue that we're having. We want to exhaust every other possibility first because we also understand that when we decide to go to a hybrid model, it impacts all of our families. And we would look at just one building if that's what was necessary. So for example, right now the main issue with quarantine is at our high school. So we would look at our high school as a possibility to move toward a hybrid model.